It is the Riot Podcast. Welcome to the show. We're glad you found us. Isaiah, today's an interesting day. It would be the birthday of Michael Jackson. He would have been 65 if he were still with us. And I'm sure you remember where you were. You're old enough, right, to remember where you were when Michael Jackson passed away and you heard the news.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Really?
At a pool.
So it was a fun occasion until you probably heard the news.
Yeah.
And then that changed things a little bit. For me, I was at a music festival where our very own RadioU, I guess now they're a throwback band, Family Force 5, happened to be there, and they played, I don't remember which song, but they did a Michael Jackson tribute because he had just passed away. So that's where I was. But it has me thinking, though, do you have a celebrity or two where it wasn't that like you had a strong attachment to the celebrity, but for some reason when you heard they passed away, it really affected you more than you would expect? Because I actually have two for me and one for my wife that jumped to mind instantly that affect you way more than you would think they would based off of how much you actually cared about like you don't know these people.
Yeah, like I haven't had one that I've been like crushed by.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I was a little sad about actually happened pretty recently. That was when Jim Brown passed away.
Oh, yeah?
Who was like one of the greatest Cleveland Browns of all time.
Yeah.
And so when he passed, because every year they would always show him for the game, and it was kind of like a tradition thing.
Oh, yeah.
For Cleveland. So when he passed, that was a sad day for me.
That is, but I mean, it makes sense. You had an emotional connection to him, though, a little bit. For me, it's also two former athletes. One is Tony Gwynn. He was a superstar for the San Diego Padres for a long time. And I don't really remember him playing. But I feel like I had a lot of baseball cards of him maybe and whatever and played him in old video games. And then, but he passed away fairly young. And so like not so long after he had retired from baseball, I believe he also chewed a lot of tobacco and stuff and had some kind of cancer. So that explained that. But he was one. But then another one, this guy I don't know anything about at all. His name is Ken Stabler. You heard of him?
I know Ken Stabler.
Quarterback for the Raiders.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the 70s. It was well before I was born. And he was retired well before I was born. But when he passed away, I heard some radio host just eulogizing him. And that actually got me. So I guess it really wasn't about Ken Stabler at all. It was about the guy who actually did have a connection to him, and Ken Stabler passing away. That got me teary-eyed, but it didn't affect me long-term. But then here's a weird one for my wife. Ready? She has always said she got super emotional when Bernie Mac passed away.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's not like she didn't watch his show, the Bernie Mac show. It was a name she knew. He was in Ocean's 11. A pretty famous comedian for a while, but it wasn't like she had any fond memories of Bernie Mac. But for some reason, when he passed away, which I believe was pretty unexpected, my wife's always said, "Yeah, really, I didn't care about Bernie Mac that much, but it really got to me."
Yeah, there weren't a lot for me that I didn't have feelings for in some way or another.
Yeah,
that for whatever reason made me really sad. But there were some celebrities that passed away that I was so sad.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy.
Do you want to access those?
I mean, there's obviously Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, that was sad.
Black Panther.
Super unexpected, obviously.
That one was super sad. The Paul Walker one was really sad.
That's right.
What about Steve Irwin?
Yeah,
sad.
You know what? Actually, that was tough too. But I had, a big emotional connection to him. I watched him a lot growing up. So that was tough. And then I think anytime, some of the ones that have hit me the hardest are always when it's not only unexpected, but it's somebody who takes their own life. Those are really tough. Even if you're less familiar with the person, that's still always tough to see. So Chris Cornell and Robin Williams and Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, those are all tough ones too.
What a somber podcast
intro
today.
That's right. You know what we should do after this is have a real good time.
That's what we got planned.
Let's change the subject. Don't worry, we have a lot of fun in the podcast.
There's no more death in the podcast today.
Well, maybe the trees. The trees.
Okay, there's no more death.
There's no more humans dying
in the podcast.
Podcast, it's a good time, and enjoy it. It'll put a smile on your face, or your money back.
We'll see you guys soon.
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
Interesting trend going on in China. They're experiencing something that's that's now being called full-time children in China.
Isn't that how all children are?
No, you don't understand.
You got to watch them full time.
They constantly require supervision. I understand. But this isn't that. This isn't having a baby and then supervising it for 18 years until it grows up. This is 20 and 30-year-olds becoming full-time children once again, moving back in with their parents, performing household tasks, chores, in exchange for free rent, pretty much. They're heading home, these adults, to live with their parents. They offer their parents a few positives. Again, they'll take care of the chores. It says they'll even take them shopping somehow with their parents' money that the parents are giving them. And in exchange, they get free rent.
I feel it's a pretty common thing.
It's taking off. It's not. Is it really common? How many people do you know that are in their 20s and 30s that move back with their parents and don't have a job?
Oh, they don't have a job.
Yeah, they're children. They're living as
they're not children.
They're living as
adults.
grown children. They're reverting to their living life the way they lived it when they were like 13 years old, pretty much.
See, I thought you were saying they just live with their parents. I'm like, a lot of people in their 20s live with their parents.
No, yeah.
It's a great way to save money.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But that's not being a full-time child.
Got it. So they don't have a job.
Uh-huh.
And then they also live at home.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess if you don't have a job, you can't live somewhere else.
No, it makes it difficult. And that is part of the issue is that in China, it looks like the unemployment rate has hit 5.3%. That's a little high. And so in combination with being unemployed and or burnt out, it's leading people to move back in at home and live a rent-free lifestyle, a chore lifestyle, a full-time child lifestyle. Here's my question to you. Do you think this actually even, like if you could do this, does it even sound better than just living life as an adult being independent?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, I don't think, I
would rather have my own money.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way I can spend it however I want. If I'm asking my parents for money, like every day to go like out to eat,
yeah,
that just seems wild. Like last night I went to Chipotle and then I got an ice cream cone from McDonald's.
Yeah.
With my own money.
You did both?
Yeah, I did both.
Wow.
It was a special night.
Yeah, it was.
But if I had to ask my parents every single time that I wanted to go out to eat or do anything, that would be terrible.
Yeah, I think, I get it, I guess, because a lot of people have fond memories of being a child, and then it felt even all the more special when your mom took you to Taco Bell, but it's not better than being a grown-up and just being able to, if you want Taco Bell, you just go get it. You just go do it. You have your own money.
But then you avoid all the stresses. You don't have to pay bills.
Yep. So it's.
But they could do the same thing and have a job.
They could have a job. But then their parents might kick them out. I don't know. It doesn't sound like their parents are really.
Doesn't sound like they would. Do you think they would kick them out right now? They're just giving them money.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like the Chinese parents are really. They sound like they're happy being full-time parents, it seems.
You won't hear a show like this anywhere else. And that's probably for the best. The Worst of the Riot. Radio U.
Isaiah, football season about to really kick off. The NFL season just over a week away. And one of the big storylines is Aaron Rodgers playing his first games as a New York Jet and no longer a Green Bay Packer. And it seems that one bar in Wisconsin is really rooting hard against Aaron Rodgers. Or, I don't know, maybe they're not, based off of this. I have a bar in Wisconsin that is offering to pay people's tabs every time Aaron Rodgers loses. Now, that might sound... I mean, how do you see that? Do you think they're rooting against him, or they're saying he's going to win every game, so we don't think we'll have to pay your tab?
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say, isn't it?
It seems like they want everybody in the bar to root against him.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But there is a lot of, as you may be able to guess, it's not so black and white as to how you just get free everything at this bar when Aaron Rodgers loses, which admittedly, hopefully will be rare. But it's not so simple. First of all, the place is called Jack's American Pub. It's near Milwaukee. And here's how it works. In order for you to claim this free tab from them if Aaron Rodgers loses, first of all, he has to be playing in a game that's not on at the same time the Packers are playing.
So that takes out a lot of games.
That takes a lot of them. I think...
Because both teams usually play at, 1 o'clock?
A lot of times they'll play at 1, yeah. So that will only be 4 times they don't play in the same time slot.
So you have 4 opportunities.
4 times to go. Then...
Which is smart on their part because they know that it's always going to be packed for Packers games.
Yep.
But now it'll be even more packed for Jets games.
A way to get people in. But you need to be there early. You got to open your tab at least 15 minutes before kickoff.
No, okay, we can do that.
That can be done. That's typically how I like to do things for football days. But here's the real kicker. No food.
No! See, the food what really drives it up.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, alcohol is expensive. So if you're sitting there and you're going to be drinking, that you could definitely save a few bucks. However, drinking and not eating doesn't sound like a good plan.
Sounds like a lot of danger.
Sounds dangerous. And you have to be there, so you have to open your tab 15 minutes before. You don't order any food, but you have to stay the entire game to watch Aaron Rodgers lose, and then have to be there after the game is over. And then if you've done that, Aaron Rodgers loses one of these 4 times in the season, then all the whatever you drank, that's covered by Jack's American Pub.
Well, that's not too crazy.
It's not too wild. It could happen.
Yeah,
One out of those 4 times.
I wonder who they play against.
Yeah.
That's the real kicker.
That's
I'm
right.
sure, it's the primetime games.
It'll be
so one of them will be the Cleveland Browns.
That's right. And they're not going to lose
and
that one.
They're going to win that one.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they're gonna win against my Brownies.
Yep.
Unless.
So, yeah, that goes one shot for you. And that's like in the middle of Christmas, too, I believe, isn't it?
End of the season, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is something anybody's really going to take advantage. I will tell you, though, it'll only take one time. This is in Wisconsin. You think about the way people would be able to pack down those Miller Lights, probably.
Well,
this could really go wrong for the bar if it just happens once or twice.
Too, I mean, for those people, they were going to do that anyway, so.
That's true.
They played the Chiefs on a Sunday night game. So obviously that's
toss-up.
That's a good toss-up.
Yeah, toss-up.
The Chiefs lost like 2 games last year.
I respect the Chiefs. They have a
doesn't
slight
sound like
chance.
You do if you're giving them a chance against the Jets. They also have the Chargers on a night game as well.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you don't go to that one.
The Raiders.
Yeah, don't go to that one either.
And then the Browns.
All right, so you got like one chance if you're in Wisconsin to pull this out.
Yeah, they'll definitely beat the Raiders. And then the other ones, they could go either way.
Yep. So there you have it. But a generous offer.
We're not sure who behaves worse, the Riot or their dogs.
I don't even know how to behave like a real human being.
The Riot, RadioU.
How would you feel if this happened to you, Isaiah? I have a person, it's a waitress. She posted on Reddit a receipt that she got where she didn't get a tip. And the reason she didn't get a tip is because she asked a couple if they'd like to split the bill.
Okay.
You know, coming up to the end of the night, the end of the dinner. Would you, hey, how are you guys? Is this all in one check? And apparently that rubbed the man the wrong way. And so he struck out when it was tip time, struck out the area with the tip, and then wrote a note that said, very insulted that you asked my wife if we wanted separate checks. What would you do? How insulted would you feel if you were out on a date and the waiter or waitress did that to you?
I would 0%.
0?
I mean, they do that every time.
I don't
Is
know.
it together or separate? Together or separate? Together or separate?
I don't know if I've ever had that happen on a date. But
Will they ask if it's together?
Yeah. Where they ask if
every
it's separate.
time.
I don't know if I've had that.
I've gotten it every time I've went on a date.
Oh. Well, I must have a much more commanding personality than you.
Well, it's different as well. If you like, it just kind of. I feel like it depends to how like the dates like how it looks when they walk up.
Yeah.
But I've been asked every single time that I go and sit across from anyone. I went out to eat with my aunt recently. I went out to eat with girls recently, and every time I go, they say, "Is it together?" Because they want it to be together. They don't want it to be separate.
Yeah,
obviously.
it's easier for them.
Yeah, they just say, "Is it together?"
Yeah,
and then you have to say it's separate.
This is all in one check.
Yeah,
Is the line I always hear.
it's a standard line.
Yeah. No, I mean I've heard it a million times. I just usually in a dating scenario, I don't think that's ever come up. However, if it were to come up, zero insult whatsoever. It's just polite. It's just how do they know? How are they supposed to know? Is it rude to assume at this point that people are on a date? You don't know what their relationship could be.
Mm-hmm.
A man and a woman can't be friends, can't be related. I don't know why this guy took such offense to it, but I have a good guess. And that's because the woman said she didn't, the waitress said she didn't assume that they were dating, that they were together because he seemed to be in his late 50s or early 60s. And this woman was much younger, the woman that was his wife, evidently. And so she just assumed, she didn't assume that they were together. It sounds like he might be a little insecure.
Yeah, clearly if he didn't leave a tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to this guy. I mean, that is just standard restaurant going. He must not go out much.
Maybe not. Yeah.
He must not go out much because I think just about every time I get asked that. So for him not to leave a tip too, it was $65.80. I mean, he's just a jerk.
He probably was just looking for an excuse to not give a tip.
Yeah.
The only thing Isaiah loves more than the riot is himself.
Someone who probably still lives with his mother and hates himself.
You're listening to The Riot on Radio U.
I have a list here. The top stressors that you could experience on a basically daily basis. There's some things that people do from time to time. Occasionally you might encounter, and that's like, well, this is stressful and annoying. But this is the stuff that you might encounter basically, let's say every day on your way to work or school. In your day-to-day life, you might experience this. You want to know what the top one is?
What could it be?
Being caught in traffic is the top thing that bothers people on a daily basis.
I could see that being a big issue for people.
I guess we do have like a whole segment on like every radio station dedicated to that every morning to make sure that people get on their way wherever they're going as quickly as possible. Then again, is that really the most stressful thing? You just got to be patient, you know? Does that bother you the most?
Well, I don't get caught in traffic because I work at weird times, but
that's true.
It is a daily stressor though. Because there's not like a lot of things that stress you out every single day. And so it makes sense that that'd be one of the top ones that no matter what for most people, they're going to run into that. And I know people who do work till like 5 o'clock and they hate it.
Yeah, you just want to be done with your day.
Yeah,
you
go
get
home.
And yeah, there's always something in the way. What about number 2 is home appliances not working properly?
Now that seems way too high because mine always work. I guess if yours didn't work all the time, that would be annoying.
Yeah, like for me, I've had oven issues twice now in the span of a year. So that is kind of annoying. It really derails, especially when you first realize that you have the issue and you have to cook the meatloaf another way. Not easy, but still pretty high because how often does that really come up? Number 3, trailing behind somebody who's walking really slow. It's
like never happens.
It's like
to me.
traffic, but for walking.
Yeah, that happens like once in every blue moon.
Yeah, that doesn't come up a lot. Maybe if you live like in the city and you walk everywhere. You know what's similar to that, but worse to me is when you're at the grocery store and people position their carts in an aisle, like you just want to get through, but you either have to ask them to move or you have to walk all the way around because they've just positioned in such a way that they're taking up the whole aisle. That's annoying, but I wouldn't have even high on the list. Probably not. car trouble was next on the list.
That can be, if you're having serious car trouble, that can be really annoying.
And so often, too, once you have the first thing of car trouble, it's not like it ever stops after that. Like your car, when you get by it brand new, it runs for a while. But then once the first shoe drops and you start to have issues, so often that means you're in for it the rest of the time you own the car. And rounding out the top 5 was if you have kids, cleaning your house and then having kids or your partner mess it up.
Yeah, that's an annoying part.
Yeah, who loves doing the dishes? It's so annoying because you do the dishes and then what happens later that evening? There's new dishes.
Brian texted and he said this entire segment could be subtitled First World Problems. That's a fact.
I guess it could. But I mean, these are I guess we're not stressing out about needing to eat or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not starved, so unfortunately we can't talk about that on the radio.
We should just send this segment overseas and see what see what people think of it there. They probably this segment would stress them out listening to us complain.
Yeah, like if your biggest stress on a daily basis is walking behind someone who's walking slower than you.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound so terrible on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I feel like most people would say their top 10 daily stressors are not these. It would all be work-related things. Everything would be like my boss.
Yeah.
My next-door neighbor at my office, whoever it is.
What about this one? Your computer running slow.
Yeah, that could be one too.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be 100% your top daily stressors every day are other people in your life somehow.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be.
But you can't just say
your toe.
Naomi in the survey.
Yeah.
The only thing Isaiah loves more than the riot is himself.
Someone who probably still lives with his mother and hates himself.
You're listening to The Riot on Radio U.
Isaiah, I don't know if you've seen all this hubbub going around of Noah Lyles. Have you ever heard of him before?
I've seen the hubbub. This name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen him before.
The name is only familiar because of the hubbub. Noah Lyles is a track and field star, and he had some comments recently at a press conference where he asked, he says, here's the actual quote, "I watched the NBA Finals, and they have world champion on their head. World champion of what? The United States?" And then he goes on to say, "Don't get me wrong, I love the U.S. at times, but that ain't the world. We are the world." Talking about track and field, the World Athletics Championships last week. "We have almost every country out here fighting, thriving, putting on their flag to show that they are represented. There ain't no flags in the NBA."
Yeah, a bit of a weird take after you just won the World Championship.
Yeah.
And to take a shot at the NBA, that seems kind of like an odd celebration to me.
By the way, Noah Lyles, if you're wondering, is American.
Yeah.
He is from the U.S. So now I've seen there's a bunch of reactions coming out from NBA players, which honestly, I don't know about you, I think these are kind of lacking because Kevin Durant just said somebody helped this brother. Devin Booker just left a facepalm emoji, and Damian Lillard just left a pair of laughing emojis alongside TF. So I don't think they're really getting at the point. Like somebody explain to Noah Lyles, do you think you can do it? Why the NBA championship is the world championship?
Because there's no higher form of basketball than the NBA, obviously.
Exactly.
It's like the NFL. Obviously, it's the world championship.
Yeah.
So you win the Super Bowl, you're the best football team in the world. That's just because the best football is played in the U.S. of A. Same thing with basketball. The best basketball is played in the U.S. of A. No one would even challenge it. There's no other country that would even challenge it.
Yeah, there's players from every other country around the world. Well, not every country, but if you are a good basketball player from any other country, you come to the United States and play on an NBA team if you're good enough. If you're not good enough, you don't. And so that's why it's called the World Champions. And yeah, they do have the Olympics and like the World Cup that's going on for basketball right now. And what happens usually, the United States winds up winning anyways. So I don't really get the criticism. And I've had this argument with people before, Steelers fans, after the Packers won the Super Bowl, and I said they were the world champions, but I think they were just,
poking fun at you.
Yes, a little salty after they got smoked by the Packers in the Super Bowl. So it's a ridiculous. I don't know. It's just I do like Drake's comment because Drake said He thought this speech was going to be so hard in the mirror the night before.
I know. I don't know why he would even bring this up.
This is some personal issue to him he's probably thought about for years. And after he does well at the World Athletic Championships, now he's like, this is my chance. Finally, people will hear. I've been shaking my fist at clouds for years about the NBA not being in the World Championship. Finally, people will hear my voice. And now, as Drake says, the whole league doesn't rate you. You're looking like a fool.
Yeah, it does look silly, especially because it's like not at the Olympics right now either.
Yeah.
Like the one time people care about track and field and all that stuff is at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And right now he's doing all this. If he did this at the Olympics, at least then it would feel like it had a little bit more credibility.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, did anybody watch it?
No, I didn't even know what was going on.
No one even knew.
Yet again, only familiar with this guy because of his goofy comments.
Add a little riot to your Instagram feed. Follow @RadioU Official. The Riot. Radio U.
Bad Bunny and Kylie Jenner. Kendall Jenner. I always get them mixed up.
Hope he missed it.
It sounds like things are heating up between the two of them. I don't know if you've seen, but people have spotted Bad Bunny himself wearing Kendall Jenner's K necklace. A sure sign.
Well, now it's getting serious. I mean, they've been together for a while, but now it's getting real.
Things are heating up. This is what I wanted to get at. You don't trade possessions, jewelry, clothing with somebody unless the relationship's like serious, right?
It just depends on what it is, where you are, how you feel.
Mm-hmm. Is that like you think that's the first big step from, we're dating to like, this is getting pretty serious, pretty significant?
It could be. But maybe not too. Because I think
it could be real casual with a K, you could be saying.
It could be real casual.
Yeah.
Like this weekend I was at a festival, right?
Uh-huh.
And one of my friends traded bracelets with this girl that he was hanging out with the whole time.
Bracelets.
Oh,
bracelets.
Which is like something you would do.
Trading bracelets sounds like when you're 14 and you're kissing. Yeah, they were back behind the bleachers trading braces.
You're not going to believe what I did after recess. We were trading braces.
Me and Nicole, we were trading braces.
No, they traded bracelets, which is real festival-y.
Yeah.
To do, but this is a little more serious. It's weird though. I think it's weird that Kendall gave him.
That's what I was thinking.
Her necklace.
It's usually reversed in my relationships. I don't know if I've ever had a time where I really acquired very much that wasn't like
of women's jewelry.
Well, just like any kind of like thing was theirs. Like what happens in every relationship. The girl gets the guy's hoodie somehow, and probably a few other clothes along the way.
That's pretty standard.
That's real standard. But how often have you acquired some kind of something that was really the woman's, like a blanket or something like that?
You know what else is weird?
Feels rare.
See, I had the same conversation this weekend with one of my girlfriends at the pool. She was like, you know what I think is weird? It's like there's always a time where like the girl like gets a hoodie or something. She's like, but if a guy asks for like a shirt or something, like that makes him feel like a little kid. Like, what, you're gonna fit in my shirt? That feels weird. Uh-huh. But if a girl like takes their guy's oversized hoodie, then that's okay.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's very one-sided in that way, I would say. But I don't know. It seems like it could be the sign that Bad Bunny and Kendall Jenner, they're moving in a serious direction. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Keep you updated.
Now, if your girl offers you a necklace, you can just take it because Bad Bunny did. But Bad Bunny's he's a pretty like outlandish style guy.
He's a different breed. He's built different.
Disinformation, mispronunciations, bad impressions. That's Hudson. This is The Riot on Radio U.
Last night, we had what could have been a very scary situation at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. It was the game between the Rockies, baseball game between the Rockies and the Braves. And what transpired was Ronald Acuna Jr., star player, MVP candidate for the Atlanta Braves, was rushed by not one, but two fans from the stands while he was standing in the outfield. And they actually, between the two of them, wound up bringing him to the ground. Isaiah, you've seen the video. What the heck was going on?
Just some fans being silly, rushing their favorite player. They both gave him a hug. They went for the hug. It wasn't like they were like trying to beat him up.
No, which is, it could have been scary. Ronald Acuna Jr., he managed to kind of just stand his ground enough while they were hugging him. And then security rushed in and managed to pry these guys off of him and off of the field. Ronald Acuna Jr. didn't even leave the game, even though he was taken to the ground. He was totally fine. Actually wound up getting a hit again later on in the game. So he did just fine. But it is an unusual situation because, first of all, you say two guys. It sounds like two guys went together, which would also be weird. But it was one guy rushing in first. He starts hugging Ronald Acuna Jr. and security gets to him. And then in comes another guy. Do you think they knew each other?
Probably.
You think they talked about it?
Possibly.
How do you talk your buddy into rushing the field with you?
I think if your friend is willing to rush the field and you went to a baseball game with them, you're probably also an idiot.
Yeah.
People that rush the field, like their friends, if they're willing to go to the game with them, they must be just as silly as they are, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Usually people like that, their friends aren't Harvard students. If I had to go out on a limb and guess.
That could be a real good point. I mean, these guys, I guess they weren't dangerous, although you see the one guy getting dragged off the field and he was kicking and screaming. So, although they didn't seem particularly threatening, that doesn't mean they weren't maniacs. You know?
They were obviously crazy. Like, if I went to a baseball game with my friend and he was like, hey, I'm going to rush the field.
Yeah.
I would say don't do that. And I wouldn't let him do that.
Yeah. And then
so
if he did
like,
it, you
wouldn't do it. It'd be funny.
You wouldn't
be cool.
follow him on.
Yeah, if I saw him run out there, I wouldn't also be like, well, my friend's out there, so I guess that means I'm getting arrested too.
Yeah. What if it was this? What if maybe this is the charitable... maybe the first guy rushing in was actually sacrificing himself in an attempt to save his other idiot friend. Because the second guy was the one that was much crazier looking. Like he's kicking and screaming as he's been dragged off. Maybe he's been talking, I'm going to rush the field. I'm going to hug Acuna. I'm going to do whatever. And this other guy's like, no, you don't want to do that. You idiot. You'll get arrested. Look, watch, I'll show you. And so he tried to sacrifice himself and be like, show his friend how stupid it would be, but it didn't work because his friend just followed him.
Now, that's a theory that I want you to never repeat.
I'm just trying. I don't know how anybody justifies. I mean, maybe if you're like protesting something, you really believe in a cause, but what in this case, they're just rushing in. What did you think the end game was? This was the best case scenario.
You know
doing this.
What this tells me more about these guys than anything else?
What's that?
They just don't have a lot to lose. Like they must not work at like a big corporation or anything. Where I mean, when they're obviously going to be on TV on this viral video,
gonna miss some work.
Like they don't really care about their job probably that much. So for me, it just tells me they must not have a lot to do that coming Monday.
Yeah.
Find more Riot content online. riot.radiou.com.
I got a new annoying work stereotype for you, Isaiah. I don't think this is anything new, but we now have a word for it. Similar to quiet quitters, people who kind of phone it in. That's always been a thing. Do just barely the bare minimum to not get fired, or maybe they kind of want to get fired, but they don't want to quit. How about this one for you? Loud laborers. What do you think that would be?
Has a ring to it.
It does. Some good alliteration.
Some people who are loud at work, maybe?
Well, yeah, but you dig into that a little deeper. Loud laborers are people who do a lot of talking about the work they do, but don't actually back that up by doing the work they say they're doing.
Oh, they're more talking about it than being about it.
They're a little...
People would say.
Too much talk, not enough action. I think Elvis did a song about that.
Well, about that action, so...
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That is... but they're now that they're being pointed out by some researchers, kind of workplace experts, they're being called into question. If you're a loud laborer, you're going to be put on notice because These people are hurting productivity and morale, because if you hear somebody constantly gabbing about all the stuff they're getting done, that's just going to be annoying to you, right?
Yes.
As a regular worker. And then on top of that, they're not actually being productive. They're spending more time running their mouth, flapping their jaws than they are actually getting work done. And so that's putting a lot of the weight on other workers around the workplace. And people just are going to get tired of you real fast acting that way.
So what's the way to fix it, you know? What can we do?
Keep your mouth shut, put your head down, get some work done is one option.
Hudson, you clearly don't understand what's going through their head.
Yeah. No, you're right, because loud laborers think they're doing so much. That's the thing. I think they're blissfully unaware of how little work they're actually accomplishing.
And I think too, they don't care about really telling you about it. They're telling their boss what they're doing.
Yeah.
So like the reason they're talking about it, I think, is so that they can get credit for what they've done.
Mm-hmm. Even though it may very well be stuff that actually other people took care of by and large, or that's not actually a very big accomplishment at all. But in their eyes, they think it is, and they think the boss should see it that way.
Or even maybe they have a boss who never says like anything to them. And so if your boss never says anything to you, and you're just working every day, and you're doing all this work, and you're doing all these things, and your boss just goes through every day never saying like, oh, you did this, oh, you did that. Like sometimes people feel undervalued, and so I could see that being a reason too as to why
they want some attention.
Hey, they're like, boss man, I've been doing this, and this. You asked me to get this done, I got it done. And then there's never like a piece of cheese at the end of the string that their boss is putting out there of like, oh, nice work doing this. And so they feel like they have to say, oh, I got this done, oh, I got that done, as I think a search for that validation.
So you think the loud laborer phenomenon is actually the boss's fault?
Yeah.
Everything is the boss's fault, isn't it?
It's not that it is the boss's fault. I don't think there'd be a reason to tell everybody what you're doing unless you're seeking that attention.
So the boss needs to just nip it in the bud. Give somebody some attention. Give them some clear goals and expectations as a boss is something you could do. And then maybe that will shut some of these people up, actually give them something to work on instead of just constantly running their mouth and trying to get attention that way.
Yeah, it says, what can managers do about this issue? The best advice when it comes to these is to keep communication open, set up a one-on-one time with your teams. That way you can catch a loud laborer before the situation escalates.
There it is.
You won't hear a show like this anywhere else. And that's probably for the best. The Worst of the Riot, RadioU.
Now here's a question that has plagued us for a long time. How many dates do you need to go on before you make it official? Before it's boyfriend, girlfriend time?
Good question. I think that's real dependent on situation.
Okay.
Situational.
Yeah.
I would think if you're both seriously looking for a relationship, that could be quicker than maybe if somebody just got out of a relationship. If you guys are trying to be serious, if you guys hang out a bunch in a row versus like the dates are more spread out. I don't know if there's a plain answer of like 6 dates, then boyfriend, girlfriend, or how it should work.
There's not a number. What about a length of time, though? You got a length of time?
I would say like 7 months.
7? According to Claire Scott, a relationship psychologist, she says 2 months. 2 months is the time where you
Claire
should...
moves a little quicker than I do.
Yeah,
clearly.
Apparently. I think you could be onto something. I mean, every relationship is different, first of all, but also it can depend on how things start. If you're starting on a dating app and meeting somebody completely from scratch, maybe 2 months is a little quick. You hardly still know them, maybe. But if it's somebody that you have already encountered in real life, maybe you know them from school or what, and it starts blossoming into a relationship. Maybe then after 2 months, I mean, that could feel like a really long time after you've gone on a couple dates in 2 months, But, I mean, Claire Scott, relationship psychologist, she says you should at least be entitled to answers after a couple months.
That's fair. having the conversation.
Yeah.
I think you need to go through some seasons together.
Before you can even say, this is my girlfriend.
Yeah.
You have to experience the changing of the seasons.
I think you need a seasonal change. Because you think about seasons, like how many seasons are there? There's 4 seasons. There's 12 months. It's like 4 months. So maybe they're a little different in the summer than they are in the winter.
They're 3 months. But no, it's a good point. It's a fair point that the way things feel in summertime are going to feel way different in fall. Potentially. That could actually really derail a relationship. Same thing with however it feels in winter compared to spring. That makes a lot of sense.
That's kind of what I think about it. Just because I think the more time, the first like 2 months or 3 months, like you guys are just in like trying to either make them like you or like you're not really being like your true self until I feel like you're a little bit more comfortable with them. And so I feel like even they wouldn't even have a good idea of what you're like until you really feel like they do like you. And then you need to spend some time where you both actually are being your true selves. Yeah. And so I think it takes longer than you think.
Yeah. Yet again, I think it comes down to if you're meeting somebody on the apps, it's going to be longer, even if you go on more dates in that time, than if it's somebody you already had met somewhere else and it starts turning into a more relationship feeling situation. So I guess I was hoping we'd get a hard answer here. I guess not.
I said 7 months.
Nobody's waiting 7 months.
Because if you do 2 months, that's 8 times you guys, like let's say you hang out once a week, right? That's 8 hangouts. You're going to make somebody your girlfriend after hanging out with her 8 times?
I think people could do that. I asked my wife to marry me after getting me 8 times. So.
You've made it all the way to the end of the Worst of the Riot. This show only exists because of support from listeners like you. Find out more and help out at RadioU.com/donate.